Once upon a time, in a small, weather-beaten hut at the forest's edge, lived young Lisa with her stepmother Karga. Karga's heart was as cold as winter nights, and her face was always etched with deep lines of anger. This morning, Lisa sat with her delicate hands on the massive, worn kitchen table, clutching a last keepsake from her mother, a simple yet beautiful cup. Karga, grumpy as ever, suddenly knocked the cup from the table. With a sharp clatter, it shattered into many pieces. A soft sigh escaped Lisa as the coldness of the curse, barely perceptible, crept into the room, causing the tiny, wilting blossoms on the table to wither even faster. Karga, her small, dark eyes fixed on Lisa, grumbled, "Now go and fetch me a new cup from the Singing Valley, and don't come back without one, or you'll lose even more of your worthless clutter." Lisa's heart constricted, yet in her luminous green eyes a spark of quiet determination ignited. The air smelled of old wood, and an invisible mustiness settled over everything. Later that evening, Lisa sat in her small, Spartan bedroom. The tiny window let in little light, and the room often lay in semi-darkness. The coldness, unwittingly summoned by Karga, crept even here through the dark wooden walls. Lisa stroked her lovingly hand-carved wooden horse on the shelf, her only comfort. She felt the heavy burden of Karga's words and the fear for her village. Yet with every deep breath, smelling of old herbs and cool air, a quiet but unwavering determination grew within her. She was initially uncertain, yes, but also brave and nature-loving. "I must go," she whispered to herself, "not just for a cup, but for everyone. I must break the curse." Her green eyes glowed in the semi-darkness, and she felt a new, unknown strength awaken within her. She would prove to the world that there was more to her than just a simple stepdaughter. The next morning, with an apple and her resolve as her companion, Lisa reached the galvanized wooden bridge. It creaked with every step over the gurgling river that wound powerfully through rocky banks. At the end of the bridge stood a gaunt, grumpy man with a long gray beard and alert, piercing blue eyes. Silas, the bridge keeper. He leaned on his gnarled branch. "Only those with a beautiful gift may pass," he grumbled, his voice rough as the weather. Lisa noticed the empty, wilting flower boxes on the railing, a sad sign of the curse. She cupped her hands and scooped icy, crystal-clear water from the gurgling river. With deliberate movements, she poured it into the boxes. Silas watched her with a suspicious gaze. But as Lisa smiled and said, "The most beautiful gift is reawakened life," he saw the pure goodness in her heart. The scent of damp wood and metallic rust mingled with the fresh fragrance of the river water. Suddenly, Silas nodded. "Go, young woman," he said softly, and in his eyes lay a hint of kindness. It was Lisa's first small victory against the darkness. Deeper and deeper, Lisa wandered into the mistwood. The forest was so dense that the closely packed, gnarled trees seemed like ghostly sentinels, and the fog swallowed up visibility. An eerie twilight pervaded everywhere, and it smelled strongly of damp earth and moldy leaves. Suddenly, she heard a faint peeping. Among the roots reaching deep into the ground, she found a small fledgling, trembling and helplessly fallen from its nest. It was Celestina's young, but the bird mother dared not approach due to the coldness of the curse. Lisa's heart grew heavy. Despite the dense, confusing fog, which stole her bearings and urged her towards weariness, Lisa carefully took the young bird into her delicate hands. She warmed it against her chest. The soft down of the small bird gently touched her. With great patience, she returned it to its nest. No sooner had she done so than Celestina appeared, a small but robust songbird with iridescent blue shimmering feathers. She chirped a beautiful, clear melody that sounded to Lisa's ears like a guide, showing her the path through the thick fog. The air no longer just sounded silent, but filled with a gentle hum that softly led Lisa. After leaving the mist wood behind, Lisa reached the wind-swept beach, which stretched out wild and vast. Dark, coarse-grained sand crunched under her sturdy leather shoes. The sky was overcast, and tempestuous waves lashed against the shore. Bizarre driftwood lay everywhere. Amidst this wild place stood a colorful lighthouse, artfully built from countless pebbles. But its light, which should have reached far over the stormy sea, had gone out. At the foot of the tower sat Fite, the stout lighthouse keeper, his rosy, wind-chapped face full of panic. His bright red cap sat askew on his gray curly hair, and his blue eyes were wide open. "The light is out!" he cried desperately. "The curse has swallowed it! The ships!" Lisa, whose heart beat for the land, knew she had to help. With her skillful hands, she searched the beach for two suitable smooth pebbles. She rubbed them firmly together. A small spark, then another, danced in the salty air. The scent of sea and seaweed mingled with the smoke of the small fire. With much patience and courage, Lisa reignited the beacon, which now shone brighter than ever before. Fite looked at her with tears in his eyes. "You did it!" he cried, his voice overflowing with gratitude. Fite, his eyes still shining with relief, led Lisa inside the colorful lighthouse. The air smelled of warm stone and a hint of smoke. "You've saved us all, young woman," he said, his large, calloused hands gesturing vividly. "I want to show you something, a secret path into the Singing Valley, a place where the songs haven't entirely fallen silent yet." He pointed to a hidden staircase, concealed within the colorful pebbles, spiraling downwards. "This path hasn't been entirely reached by the curse yet. It should lead you safely." Lisa felt the warmth in Fite's words and in his eyes. A feeling of hope surged through her, a sweet breeze that dispelled the salty scent of the sea. She thanked Fite from the bottom of her heart. Her upright posture showed her newfound strength. The way was still long, but Lisa's courage was now as strong as the newly kindled beacon. She knew that she was on the right path to find the source of songs and finally break the curse. Lisa descended the hidden staircase and soon found herself in a true wonderland, the mysterious Singing Valley. It was filled with lush blooming meadows and gentle undulating hills, a stark contrast to the places marked by the curse. The air was sweet with the scent of blooming flowers and fresh grass. Everywhere, a soft hum lay in the air, like an ethereal melody. Yet Lisa, who now paid closer attention to the signs of the curse, noticed that this hum was not entirely pure. A faint, disharmonious undertone mixed within it, a sign that even here darkness cast its shadows. Bright, clear sunlight permeated the valley, often with a soft golden shimmer. Nevertheless, Lisa felt a faint unease, a premonition that her mission was not yet fulfilled, even here. She saw small, earthy homesteads nestled in the hills. She knew that she had to find the source of songs, and her singing cup, which she did not yet possess, would be a key to it. With every step through the peaceful valley, her desire to fully restore harmony grew. Lisa followed a narrow path that led to a small clay hut. It was Alma's pottery workshop, a cozy, earthy hut whose clay walls were permeated by the warmth of a large, glowing potter's oven. An intense, earthy scent of wet clay filled the air. There sat Alma, the kind, wise potter, at her traditional potter's wheel. Her laughing face was surrounded by countless laugh lines, and her warm, sparkling eyes radiated wisdom and kindness. She wore a loosely fitting smock of coarse linen, and a small handcrafted ceramic pendant dangled around her neck. "Come in, child," Alma said with a gentle voice, as if she had expected Lisa's arrival. "I sense a great restlessness within you, but also a pure heart." She recognized Lisa's inner turmoil immediately. "You are looking for a cup," Alma said, "but the true cup you can only shape yourself, from your own strength, your own heart." Lisa, fascinated by Alma's calm presence and her clay-marked hands, nodded. She felt how Alma's words encouraged her and warmed her heart. Lisa sat down at Alma's potter's wheel. The wet clay felt cool and supple under her delicate, skilled hands. Alma sat beside her, observing patiently, without a word. Lisa concentrated, feeling the clay as it formed under her pressure. Unconsciously, she began to hum the beautiful melody of the bird that Celestina had shown her in the mistwood, a song of hope and life. The warm earth tones of the room, the subdued light of the oven, everything seemed to be in harmony with her. And then it happened. As Lisa finished shaping the cup and Alma carefully placed it into the glowing oven, the cup began to hum softly. It was a faint but unmistakable melody, the first voice of the source, activated by Lisa's goodness and pure heart. Alma smiled. "It sings for you, Lisa," she whispered, "a fragment of the source, born of your own magic." Lisa held the cup, now warm in her hands, and felt a deep joy fill her. This cup was more than just a vessel. It was a living echo of the songs, proof of her own creative power, and a warning signal for the advancing corruption by the curse. With the singing cup clutched tightly to her, Lisa returned to the hut at the forest edge. The land seemed to have grown even colder and quieter. The plants in the front garden were now almost completely withered. But Lisa felt strong and invincible. She proudly placed the cup on the kitchen table exactly where Karga had broken the old one. Karga was already sitting there, her face still pressed into a thin, bitter line. "So you're finally back," she snapped. "Do you have the cup?" Lisa nodded and pushed the cup across the table. Karga took it in her coarse hands. "What's this supposed to be? Just a plain cup," she grumbled. Karga couldn't hear the melody. For her it was just a silent object, filled with the coldness of the curse that now also encompassed her hands. But for Lisa, the cup's melody sounded softly but urgently. It sang of the advancing corruption, of the lost songs, and the call for help. Lisa looked at Karga, no longer fearful, but with a new, inner strength. She had discovered her own magic and now knew that she was no longer a victim of the cold. Her journey had only just begun, and she was ready for what might come. The scent of damp wood and a growing melancholy filled the room, yet Lisa's heart sang softly with the cup. One evening, as the last rays of sun fell through the small window into Lisa's bedroom, bathing the hut at the forest edge in a soft twilight, it happened. Lisa's special cup, which could magically sing, began to whisper a new, wondrous melody. It was a delicate sound, almost like the call of a distant bell, speaking directly to Lisa's heart. "Come to the source of songs, save us," hummed the cup, and Lisa felt a deep urgency in this call. Outside, the curse had spread even worse. The sky was gloomier, a damp chill crept into the cracks of the old house, and the birds, which usually sang so cheerfully, were now silent. A soft, eerie murmur hung in the air, telling of the advancing silence of the curse. Lisa felt a small shiver run down her spine, but a new sense of adventure also awakened within her. She knew this journey would be much more important than the first. Her green eyes, often thoughtful, now radiated a new resolve. She clasped her singing cup tightly and listened to the secrets it revealed to her. The air smelled of old wood and a slight sweetness from Lisa's dried herbs, yet beneath it lay the sharp scent of the impending silence. Lisa set off for the old Riverside Fair, a place that, despite the curse, still seemed colorful and bustling, yet a soft melancholy hung over the cheerful calls of the merchants. She caught the scent of sweet gingerbread and sharp spices, mingling with the fresh smell of the river water. Between glowing fabric tents and simple wooden stalls, she discovered Pico, the lively gnome. He was smaller than a child, with pointed ears and a mischievous grin. His colorful patchwork clothing glittered in the light, and small bells on his hat jingled with every movement. Pico, always busy, offered her an old, enigmatic map, said to show the way to the source of songs and to be shunned by the curse. "What is your treasure, young woman?" he asked in his quick voice, which sounded like a soft rustle. "I trade secrets for stories." Lisa, brave and honest, told him about her singing cup and her great desire to break the curse that was shrouding her land in silence. She described how the cup itself was an echo of the source. Pico listened attentively, his deep blue eyes sparkling. He recognized the truth and pure intention in Lisa's words. "A fair trade," he exclaimed joyfully, handing her the map, drawn on old, delicate paper. The map was not easy to read, full of riddles and signs that only an inquisitive heart could understand. Pico winked at her. "Sometimes the journey is more important than the destination, little rescuer. Listen to your cup. It knows more than any sign." The melancholy of the market seemed to fade for a moment as Lisa held the valuable map tightly in her hands. The enigmatic map led Lisa into the mist-shrouded moors, a vast marshland where low, gnarled trees protruded from the ground like ghostly figures. A strong, musty smell of peat and stagnant water hung heavily in the air. Here, the curse was particularly strong. A dense, impenetrable fog covered everything, robbing her of any orientation. Lisa felt a paralyzing fatigue creep into her limbs, a feeling as if she wanted to forget everything and simply stop. The fog confused her senses, and soon she no longer knew where she was or where she should go. Her legs grew heavy, and a feeling of hopelessness threatened to overwhelm her. But then she held her singing cup tightly to her ear. Despite the oppressive silence around her, she perceived a faint but steady hum, which acted like a compass in her heart. It was the voice of the source itself speaking to her through the small fragment. The cup showed her the way, sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right, through deceptive banks of fog and past deep, dangerous pools. Lisa learned not to trust her eyes, but the sound that guided her safely. Each step was an effort, but the melody gave her strength. So she walked slowly, yet determinedly, deeper into the moors, always following the call of the songs. The path out of the moors led Lisa to a dark, damp cave, the Echoing Cave. A cold draft enveloped her, and the smell of damp rock and cold earth filled her nostrils. Inside, it was almost completely dark, with only sparse light filtering in from the entrance. Her own footsteps echoed, creating mysterious, faint reverberations that then faded into the silence. Lisa knew that a spirit lived here, weakened by the curse. She spoke softly into the darkness, her voice fragile. "Is there anyone here who can help me?" Then it happened. A spectral veil, barely visible, formed before her. It was Aura, the echo spirit, an ancient presence whose outlines shimmered pale blue. Aura did not speak with words, but repeated Lisa's questions in a whispering rustle that seemed to emanate from the rock itself. The messages were often enigmatic and difficult to interpret. "The mountain of silent stones, where the songs fall silent. Find the sound that awakens them," Aura whispered, herself suffering under the silence of the curse and able to return Lisa's words only fragmentarily as an echo. "The darkness, it surrounds the source. Guard your heart." Lisa had to concentrate fully to understand the fading syllables. She listened to the tones that lay between the words and sensed the wisdom in Aura's cryptic clues. She understood. The next step was the mountain of silent stones, and there she had to find a special sound. With a last, almost inaudible whisper, Aura vanished back into the shadows of the cave, and Lisa remained alone with the cool feeling of realization and the urgency of the task. Lisa left the cave and gazed at the mountain of silent stones. It was a barren, inhospitable mountain with steep cliffs and vast scree fields rising silently into the sky. The wind howled around the bare rocks, and it smelled of cold rock and thin mountain air that stole one's breath. An oppressive, almost complete silence lay over the mountain, scarcely interrupted by the sounds of the wind. Here, the curse had completely silenced the songs. Lisa's singing cup, which usually hummed so cheerfully, now only whispered softly, as if it too were crushed by the burden of silence. With every step Lisa took up the gray, brown, and black rocks, she felt the heaviness of this silence. Uncertainty crept up within her. Would she find anything here at all? Could her cup, sounding so faint, truly help reawaken the songs? The mountain's cold penetrated her simple clothes. Yet Lisa's courage was stronger than the fear. She remembered the words of the cup, the goodness she had felt. Despite the icy silence, she remained persistent. Every loose stone, every piece of scree beneath her feet seemed to grumble, yet Lisa ignored the deceptive sounds and concentrated on the almost inaudible whisper of her cup. She knew she had to break the silence, not just for herself, but for the entire land. Lisa finally reached the wind-swept peak of the mountain. A flat, barren plateau spread before her, offering a breathtaking panoramic view of the entire land. The sky was covered with gray clouds, but a glimmer of hope broke through them. In the midst of the plateau stood a mysterious, shimmering crystal bell. Its surface of clear, polished crystal reflected the sparse light in all the colors of the rainbow. This bell, Lisa sensed, was also affected by the curse of silence and remained mute. A pure, cool glow emanated from it, yet it remained motionless. Lisa stepped closer, her heart pounding. She held her singing cup to the surface of the bell, as delicately as a feather. And then it happened. A clear, beautiful sound rang out, shattering the oppressive silence of the mountain like fragile glass. It was a single, pure tone that vibrated deep within Lisa's soul. The sound echoed, and with each reverberation, a shimmering crack opened in the rock floor, revealing a secret path that led deeper into the mountain. For a brief moment, the luminous crystal spirit Philo appeared, a shimmering, faceted figure of light whose eyes shone like two radiant points of intense blue. He was the guardian of the bell and a guide whose very essence consisted of sound and light. Philo briefly nodded to Lisa, a sign of assent and revelation, then vanished back into the silence, which was now a different, more peaceful one. Lisa knew she had found the way to the source, and her cup had unveiled the last secret. Lisa followed the secret path that wound through the land like a green ribbon. And then, suddenly, the forest opened into a beautiful glade. It was the enchanted glade, yet something was different. The rare bioluminescent flowers, which usually shone so brightly, now emitted only a subdued glow, almost like a tired whisper. Lisa immediately sensed that the curse had extended its cold fingers even here. However, her singing cup in her hand began to hum a new melody that sounded urgent yet full of anticipation. It was as if the cup were telling her, "The goal is near, be brave." A feeling of ultimate threat mingled with a dawning hope in Lisa's heart. She knew that time was pressing to save the source from falling completely silent, but also that she was now stronger than ever before. Lisa's path led further to the glittering river meadows. The tall silver willows rustled softly, yet the crystal-clear water of the river was slightly clouded, as if a veil lay over it. Suddenly, a figure stood on the bank, as graceful and flowing as the water itself. It was Ondine, the river nymph. Her hair of aquatic plants danced in the wind, and her deep blue eyes looked seriously at Lisa. "Who are you, and what do you seek here?" Ondine asked, with a voice that sounded like the gentle lapping of water, yet also carried a warning. Lisa felt the test in her words. "I am Lisa," she replied with a calm, firm voice, "and I have come to save the source of songs, not just for myself, but for everyone in the land, so that joy and melodies can return." Ondine looked deep into Lisa's eyes, and a spark of trust seemed to light up in her features. "Your heart is pure," the nymph whispered. "Follow the labyrinth of whispering bushes. It will test you, but your song will guide you." With a deep breath, Lisa entered the labyrinth of whispering bushes. Tall, dense bushes formed impenetrable walls, and the paths seemed to wind endlessly, robbing her of all orientation. Normally, the leaves here whispered stories, but now an eerie silence hung over the place, only occasionally broken by a faint, hoarse rustle. The curse had silenced even the voices of the labyrinth. Lisa felt lost in the green tangle. A feeling of isolation spread through her. But then her cup sang again, clear and soft, a melody so pure that it penetrated even the silence. She held the cup firmly and closed her eyes for a moment to focus entirely on the sound. She would trust this melody, for it was her only guide in this confusing world. Lisa wandered through the labyrinth, hour after hour, and darkness began to draw in. Every passage looked confusingly similar to the next, and the silence pressed upon her heart. Sometimes she thought she had taken a wrong turn, but then the hum of her cup intensified, like a good friend reassuring her. It was patient yet unwavering guidance that did not abandon her. She felt her own inner melody connecting with that of the cup, and a feeling of clarity flowed through her. She was no longer alone in this green prison. With every step she took, following the melody, her persistence grew. She had to reach the source, and she would let nothing stop her. Finally, as the last twilight faded from the sky, Lisa felt a draft and a touch of magic that was not dampened. She had reached the exit of the labyrinth. Before Lisa now lay the heart of the source. It was a sacred, majestic place, protected by an ancient tree with colossal, gnarled roots. Yet, even here, the darkness of the curse was palpable. The crystal-clear water only weakly trickled from the rock into a small, moss-lined basin. A constant, melodic harmony should have resided here, but now it was overlaid by a faint, disharmonious hum that struck Lisa deep in her heart. She sensed the essence of lost stories and memories trapped here, an echo of joy slowly threatening to die. The source was on the verge of falling completely silent. A deep sadness and, at the same time, an indomitable resolve overcame Lisa. She knew this was the decisive moment. Her heart pounded with urgency, for the fate of the entire land now rested in her hands. Without hesitation, Lisa stepped up to the basin. With trembling yet resolute hands, she held her singing cup into the faint, sacred water of the source. In that moment, something wonderful happened. The cup lit up as bright as the morning sun, and its melody grew more powerful and clear than ever before. The sound penetrated deep into the source like a warm current, dispelling the disharmonious tones of darkness. Suddenly, with a gentle gurgle, a stream of pure song water gushed powerfully from the rock, bright and clear, and the air filled with the most beautiful harmony Lisa had ever heard. A deep understanding flowed through Lisa. She now knew the true magic lay not only in the cup, but in her own compassionate heart, which could cleanse the source and break the curse. Her inner melody and her compassion were the true forces that had saved the land. A smile of profound contentment spread across her face. With a heart full of peace and joy, Lisa returned to the hut at the forest edge. And with her, the songs returned. The birds sang again in the groves, their voices clearer and more joyful than ever before. The wilting plants in Karga's front garden bloomed in magnificent colors, and the cold, oppressive atmosphere gave way to a comforting warmth that filled the entire house. Lisa's cup now sang not just for her, but emitted a powerful, gentle melody that enchanted the entire surroundings and completely lifted the curse. Karga sat at the kitchen table, her brow still furrowed, yet suddenly she felt an unfamiliar warmth flowing through her limbs, and a faint smile, which she couldn't place, rested on her lips for a brief moment. She didn't understand the true cause, but she felt the change. Lisa, however, knew. She had enchanted the world with her kindness, her magic, and the restored songs of the source. She was the guardian of the songs and the embodiment of restored harmony.